Okay, I'm really pleased to welcome Raith Rovers women's captain Tyler Rattray to RaithTV. We might sound a bit giggly to start with because we've had some computer difficulties. So this is take three, I think. So Tyler, welcome to RaithTV. Welcome to our halftime feature and our podcast as well. Been meaning to catch up with you for a wee while. International Women's Week, it seems the perfect time. How's things for you?
Yeah, really good. All going good, yeah. So
I would like to start, I'm going to maybe make you blush a wee bit here by starting, as I do with all of our guests for the midweek feature, by telling you a wee bit about your Raith Rovers career. Often surprises people. You've made a total of 191 appearances, 70 youth team and 121 senior games. In front of the goal, you've got 14 youth team goals and 10 senior goals, and that's all across a Rovers career thus far of 9 seasons. How do those stats make you feel?
yeah, it's quite good because I was out with injury quite a lot, so I didn't realise I played so much games, but yeah, it's quite good to show how much I've done in the club.
Brilliant. First place to start, rather obvious place, is this small matter of a global pandemic. How on earth have you been keeping fit? How have you been keeping in contact with your teammates? You're over a game since you've had over a year since you've had a competitive game of football. What are you doing to keep in tune with each other?
Well, in January we done like a running challenge, and it was 500k that we had to do, and the team smashed it out by doing over 900k, and that was just from the ladies as well. And I've been giving out hit sessions as well each week, so they've been able to do that as well. And then we've just been like FaceTiming in a group and everything to keep in contact, really. So yeah. Tell
us about the hit sessions that you're sending out. Is that just you as a captain leading from the front, making sure that people are fit, but is it also just about being emotionally and mentally engaged in the football during lockdown?
Yeah, well, during the first lockdown I got my HND for personal training, so I'm doing it as a bit of experience and to keep all the girls kind of involved and fit and healthy, so when we do go back we can go back with a bang.
Great, absolutely. I mentioned that you've been with Raith Rovers for 9 seasons. You joined from Lomond Colts. The explosion across women's football, but particularly I would even say at a local level with Raith Rovers, is quite significant. What is the changes? What have the changes been like for you from the inside? How have you seen it develop from when you joined to where we're at now with the multiple team setup?
Yeah, well, when I joined, there was only about 40 girls at the club, and now there's about 140 altogether. So it's grown massively. There's now like a pathway from under 9s right up to ladies, so there's always a team for someone to play for and to progress to. And then when I'd started before, there wasn't really anywhere to really go. But it is more of a kind of family team now, instead of just sticking to your own team. Everybody's got a role model in the next team to look up to.
Do you have a kind of buddying system, even an informal one for the younger girls and the younger women kind of aspiring to make their way into the first team?
Well, we've had, like with the under 17s, a few of them have played up to the ladies to give them experience, so they kind of know what kind of team they're moving to in the next season. With the younger ones, they do also play up to the next level as well, so they're kind of getting a feel of, say, if you're moving from 7-a-side to 11-a-side, they're not just getting chucked right into it. They are getting some experience before it's like you've not got a choice if you can go back or not. So yeah,
I was really shocked when I mentioned the phrase kind of explosion in women's football, but we're looking at 9 age brackets. We're looking at 140 girls playing with a Rovers badge on their jersey. But some of the other kind of landmarks that you've played through are, significant league and cup runs. You played in the first Raith women's game at Starks Park, first televised game. We filmed a Stirling game. Then we live streamed the Bucking game as well. What's been your personal high point through this time?
Definitely beating Dunfermline in our League Cup 4-1. Nothing beats beating the Pars. So yeah, that was really good. That was a highlight.
People are going to think of QG in with that question since for the half-time game, but it's merely a coincidence. What about yourself in terms of your own performances? Is it all about the team in terms of the result, or are there any personal moments where you look back with a certain degree of pride? Any of those 10 senior goals stand out?
One was a hat trick, because I don't score very often at all. I'm more of a defender, so I always bring that up that I've scored a hat trick at one point. So yeah, that would be one of my highs, actually getting near the goal.
Not many defenders can say that. Tell us about your game. I should have started there. What's your key attributes? What's your strengths?
I enjoy my running. So I mean, I could run for days, but I've not got the skill. So if I've got that chance to run and set up a goal or make a simple wee pass, and I'll take that opportunity. And I've saved quite a few off the goal line as well. So I seem to be quite good at getting in the way.
So do you play central, or are you more of a wing back?
Just now I play centre midfield, but I have played right back, left back, centre back, right mid, left mid. Pretty much every position. I've been in goals as well. So
Sounds like a manager's
absolute
dream.
I know I do prefer centre midfield. That has been my favourite one. Yeah.
Managers talk about utility players that could play maybe 2 or at most 3 positions. I think you can play anywhere across from midfield back. I think you do sound like a manager's dream there. On the flip side of the high points, I was looking through your kind of career. I was looking through the bio that drafted to see about your journey that you've made. Low points, I read with kind of my jaw and my chest about the horror of an injury at Easter Road. That sounds a hugely challenging experience.
Yeah, that wasn't very nice. Because like the adrenaline was running, I was at a big stadium with fans that we've never had that big an audience before. And it was just from a simple tackle, and I broke my ankle, and I just kept playing the game because I was like, I can't go down. And as soon as it hit the full-time whistle, I sat down and couldn't get back up. But that was kind of the start of my injuries. I've had a good few since then. So
tell us about your recuperation from that injury. Was football something that pushed you forward in your recuperation, or was there ever a time through that you swithered that, is it worth it?
There has been a good few times that I've been like, well, there's no point in going back. But once I was on the injury period, I was like, I can't give it up. I'm bored. I need my hobby back. So yeah, I had thought about it a few times to give up because my injuries have been so bad, but I've realised that I can't go without it. So especially with this lockdown as well, it's made me realise that I enjoy it. So
well, you mentioned playing at Easter Road, and obviously a stadium that Rovers fans have got huge affection for. But one of the things I wanted to ask you about was, with the new surface that's down at Starks Park, you've got your opportunity to play your league matches and cup matches at Starks Park. How important, how much of a privilege, how much does that do for the standing of the women's game that teams come to play our Raith women's team and they actually play in, quite fantastic surroundings? What does it mean to yourself as a captain of our team?
With the girls, we all absolutely love playing at Starks Park. Like, you've got your own changing room, and you've got the tunnel to walk up, and a brilliant pitch to play on. And then a lot of the girls are just glad that we've got a good pitch to play on instead of it being a grassy park or a high school. So it's good to have all our parents being able to sit in the stands and you can hear them shouting, and you've got a really good park to play on where the ball isn't bouncing about the pitch and you've got a soft pass. But it is really good. Like, we find it quite a privilege, really, that we're getting to play on that park. And it's kind of shown how far women's football is going and how much it's improving that we're getting to play on the same park as the men are. It's like we're kind of a part of the team now.
I was going to just add, does it give that sense of acceptance that actually, you're wearing the Raith Rovers badge, you're a Raith Rovers player, and gender isn't an issue here because this is our stadium. Obviously, it was more complicated when it was a grass surface and it was cutting up heavily, etc. But I do wonder about the sense of pride and the sense of arriving for women's football at your level.
Yeah, well, the first few times that we'd been playing at Starks Park, like all the boys that I go about with, that I'd grown up playing football with, they were like, "Oh, where's your games?" And I was like, "Starks Park." And they were like, "What, the Raith Rovers stadium?" And I was like, "Yeah." So you were quite proud to say that was your stadium and your home ground. And then you've got teams turning up that don't have a good as venue as we do, and we're like, "Well, this is our home ground." So we're really quite proud of it. Proud to be a part of Raith Rovers as well, and you're seen as a part of them instead of just the ladies team.
I was chatting with you just before we came on, Mike. I'm not sure if I mentioned it, but I can remember going down to Starks Park in the 1980s. It used to actually host some of the Scotland games. I've seen Scotland, England women play there a couple of times. I've got some aunts who played football at a quite high level, so I was down watching them at different times. So I guess that Raith Rovers as a club have always had a supporting role there with women's football. Do you feel valued as a Raith Rovers player?
Yeah, I think there could be a bit more done, like publicity, etc. But where we are now compared to where we were when I started, it's just taken a whole leap to the top, really. So there was even Ian Davidson came to my work before lockdown, and he was talking about his football, and I was like, "Oh, I play for Raith Rovers too." And then yeah, it was quite good to be like, "Well, we're a part of your team as well now. It's not just."
What more could we do? It's difficult for us to make huge changes at the kind of organisational level, but at the local level, what more could we do to enhance the support to you and your teammates?
I think a lot of it is like social media, and then our games and stuff as well, because when our games are advertised, it's just on the ladies' page, and it's the only ones that really like the page is the girls that play for them and their parents. So I think it would be quite good for, say, Raith Rovers fans, for that to pop up and be like, "Oh, we can maybe go along and watch them," obviously when you can, but just gain a bit more support for the club, and you can have like the joint fans and they're supporting both.
A great point, and we'll absolutely take it on board. I mean, I think that we always like to put ourselves forward and hope that we're doing everything right, but the reality is that we've always got a lot to learn. So certainly I would hope that some of the messages that you put across in this interview we can take to the different groups of volunteers and staff within the club. I think that's a very, very fair one. In terms of your relationship with football in general, tell me about your journey. Why are you a football player?
Well, I used to play football with all the boys in my street. I was the only girl that grew up with them. So I kind of grew up with mud fights and football on the grassy pitch out the back and running down the hill for the ball. And then my mum had bought me this full Dunfermline strip for starting at Lowman Colts. And then I didn't want to go back, so she was like, "No, you're not going back." And then I ended up going back to Lowman Colts when I was a wee bit older, and then moved on to Raith Rovers and got to where I am now. But it was purely just from growing up with a group of boys and playing with them and being one of the lads, as they say. So yeah, it's good to be at the stage I am now, because I have built up my confidence and everything so much since that point.
I'm struck with my own question in there that I said, what is it that brought you to football? Because I'm always thinking, if I was interviewing a young male football player, would I ask that question? And what's going through my head is, do you see anything changing whereby when you're out in the street and you're driving to your work that actually young girls are just playing football because young girls play football?
Yeah, I see a lot of young girls out now. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see a lot of girls, like young girls out and about now with their Scotland strips on and everything now, and you see a lot of them just playing in the street with their friends. It's not like how it used to be. They're playing now because they want to play and because they can play, and they've got options like Lowman Colts and Raith Rovers and everything. There is more choices there for them, and obviously with schools they're doing football at schools now, so they're getting more involved with the sport instead of just kicking about in the street.
Within the game of football, who do you enjoy watching? Who gets you off your seat? Who would you stay in to watch on TV, or if there's an interview, who's inspirational for you? Who's worth the money?
It would normally be Celtic, but it's gone downhill a little bit now. So yeah, it would be them, but I do quite like watching Scotland women as well. When they've got a game on, I'm right in front of the TV.
And the coverage is excellent. It goes alongside that. How big was the 2019 World Cup, the Women's World Cup? just also been reading about our fellow Rovers fanatic Stephen Lauder's book, Arrival, about the journey and the experience of that tournament for the Scotland women's team. How important do you think that was in the wider scale for, amongst yourself and the girls that you're training with and playing with? How important was that tournament?
I think it was really important because it gained more publicity on the women's sport. A lot of younger girls, obviously there wasn't a lot on TV about women's football or anything, but with that being on, it had gave a lot of younger girls the choice to watch their role models playing when it was publicised. So it did get us a lot of publicity and a lot of younger girls wanting to play and being like, well, yeah, I can play because they're doing it, why can't I? So
absolutely, because it's just a game. What about your own role models? I know that Shelley Kerr's somebody you hold in particularly high esteem. If we could click our heels or click our fingers and have somebody to come in and coach us for an afternoon, who would you be choosing from the world of football?
If it wasn't Shelley Kerr, I think Erin Cuthbert would, because she's got a lot of intelligence, not just on the pitch but off as well. She gets the ball and she knows exactly what she's doing, and I think even something as simple as passing, if she's saying this is why I'm doing it, a lot of girls can learn from that. And she's got a lot of experience as well, and she's a brilliant player, so I would definitely choose her to come along.
Yeah, I can totally understand why. She's very gifted. I think that her showreel's time well spent, isn't it? What about, we mentioned this tag of role models a lot, and just as I was coming through to set up, I thought, but you're a role model. Do you feel like a role model to the youngsters that are around you? And not only young girls, but young boys, actually, because we're talking about lockdown, we're talking about exercise for emotional and mental health. There are kids round about your street and round about your community see you as the person who goes and trains, who goes and plays, who goes and, comes in for work when it's much easier to sit on the couch. Do you feel like a role model to kids round about you?
I didn't really, but it wasn't until my mum had said that, a lot of the girls at the younger teams, you're where they want to be. It was just before this interview she said that. She was like, you're where they want to be in a few years' time. And then it kind of hit me. I sat back and I was like, you know what, when I was their age, I wanted to be the captain of the ladies' team and go out, work and everything like that. So, yeah, it did hit me just before this interview.
Brilliant. No, it absolutely should. Do you think the value of the women's game's changed, either locally or nationally? How do you experience that as a player? As you travel around to different clubs, do you feel there's a degree of importance on your matches?
Yeah, because obviously a few years ago when I told someone I played football, they're like, "Oh, a girl plays football, so what?" But now my managers at work, they're sitting talking to me like, "How are you getting on at this game and how's your injury and who you got next week and what's the scores and everything." So people are showing a lot of interest now, and it is really good for them to finally realise that we're doing this sport because we love it and not just to show them that they're wrong, basically.
Absolutely. This is maybe a kind of tough question to ask, but I think I would be absolutely dodging it if I didn't. I've got no doubt. I've made my mind up before coming into this conversation that I'd be naive not to think that you've been discriminated against on the basis of being a women football player. Would that be true? And what have your experiences been like? And what is it that gets you through? What keeps you resilient?
Yeah, well, when I was at primary school, I tried out for the football team, but I was told that I couldn't do it because I was female. And I'm not sure if that was because of a changing room situation, or just because they didn't want me in the team. And then at high school as well, I'd had a few comments like, I don't think females should be playing football. It's not a sport for females. But I just, obviously, because I'm playing now, I just ignored them, and I was like, well, I'll prove you wrong. And I have done, so.
Absolutely have done. Tyler, I want to ask you a wee bit about that discrimination and look at it for a couple of different angles. The first one is the really positive outcome. How would you use that kind of drive and energy and enthusiasm that you have for the game of football to reach out to other girls at whatever age, with whatever ability? How do you reach out to use your experience to say, come on, we're an inclusive group, this is an inclusive club? What would you say to people that are thinking, I'm not fit enough, good enough, skillful enough, whatever it may be?
Well, I mean, football's there as a hobby. At Raith, it's not always a competition, so it's not always about who's the fittest or who's got the most skill or anything like that. We really welcome anybody that wants or is willing to take part, and that's what sport's there for, is to improve yourself, make yourself fitter and get more involved. So I don't think anyone's ever too unfit. There's always room for improvement. So that's what we're all about. We'll help improve you. I wouldn't let anything like I'm too unfit hold you back, because you're never going to be the best anyway. So you're just as well embracing it and going for it.
What would you say to people who will kind of watch in and take, we all know these people who take any opportunity to belittle the women's game, to point out the flaws, because of course no male football player ever makes a mistake, ever misses an open goal, no goalkeeper ever drops the ball, but people do, or certain men I would say in particular, seem to take a joy in any mistake. What would you say to these people who think that that's some clever way of behaving?
Well, we don't particularly take any notice to anybody like that, because it's our game at the end of the day. It's not theirs. It's us that's playing it and it's not them. And what I'd love to see is them trying to do exactly what they're trying to tell us to do. Show us how it's done, but none of them can ever really do it. But the best way to go around that is just to ignore them and play the game you want to play.
What's ahead for you? What's ahead for Tyler, the football player? We're seeing just today there's been some easing. The lower leagues are coming back. There's I think the top level of the women's game are getting permission to build towards competitive games again. So, we're hopefully, the football fields will be full with people kicking a ball about soon. What are your targets beyond getting playing? Is it about fitness? Is it about mentality? Are there particular parts of your game that you feel you need to improve?
With the team, I want us to be promoted to the next league. Like, I think we only lost one game out of the games we could have last season, and before that we were losing quite a lot of games. So the girls we've got right now are absolutely brilliant. I just want us all to keep a positive mentality when you're on the pitch, because none of us speak negative to each other. It's always like, oh, it's okay, keep going. So I do want us all to get promoted and get higher than we've ever got before, because the ladies team hasn't got very high up before, and I want us to beat that record and get top.
Be the trailblazers. I've got a question from your manager who said, what particular aspect of the men's game would you like to see incorporated into the women's game, or not the men's game, sorry, my apologies, the men's team at Starks Park? What aspect of their experience would you like to see transfer over to your gang?
A lot of it would be based around like social media and publicity. Like, I would like to see a lot of our games videoed, and it's not just to get people watching us, it's so we can watch it back and see where we need to improve. And it's like a good video you want. It's not one that's on a mobile phone that you're wanting.
Yeah.
And then one of the games we had before, it had the commentators and everything, and I was watching it back a couple of weeks ago, and it was good to just be able to watch your game, but then you could hear the commentators have banter as well. And then things such as like the changing rooms, and then physio access and stuff like that. A lot of it is just to help us as a team grow, and then become a part of Raith Rovers as well. But a lot of it does surround about like publicity and social media, and just get our names out there along with the Raith Rovers men team.
So spoke about how women's football at Starks Park's got a bit of a tradition going back 30, 40 years. We speak about the massive steps that have been made across your time at the club, but it sounds pretty clear that we've still got a journey to go, haven't we?
No, I'm quite glad with how far it has came, because when I started we were nothing to do with the men's team, but now we've got Starks Park as our home ground. We've had a few training sessions out, we've had a few games televised, and it's a lot further than I'd ever thought we'd get. I just want to keep trying and pushing it as far as we can.
And sometimes I think when when there are gaps there, it's a human nature to say, yeah, but we've not done it for this reason or this reason or this reason. And I'm not a fan of that, because actually sometimes we can get a bit of feedback, we can take it to the club, we can take it to the various structures there and actually say, there's a lot going right, but what more can we do? And I would hope that our interview is maybe a little bit of a springboard to that, in terms of increasing the voice that yourself and your team have. I can only speak behalf of RaithTV, but certainly our interview will be watched, and it'll be watched a lot wider than just the people of Kirkcaldy. How would you like to finish? What points would you like to make in finishing? Because, it's your interview.
I'm just kind of glad that someone from, not just me, but someone from the ladies' team has had an opportunity to speak out and be a part of Raith Rovers, because we have come a long way in the years that I've been at Raith Rovers, and it is a privilege for it to be me to do this. But I mean, we do get Starks Park as our home ground, which is a lot better than, miles better than playing in a high school ground or your local park at Gallatin. So it does mean a lot that we're already getting what we've been given and opportunities that we're getting, and it is looking a lot more positive. And it just feels good from me and the team that we're getting these opportunities that we normally wouldn't get.
And thanks for your time. The most important thing is I hope you're back playing football soon.
Oh, me too. I'm missing it. Can't wait to get back.
Well, hopefully next time I see you, we'll be down at Starks Park, and you'll be coming up that tunnel to do what you love doing the most. All the best.
Thank you for having me.
No, I really enjoyed your company. Take care.